Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our evening podcast with Ying Yang the podcast. Ying and Yang here tonight to talk to everybody about 2 week notices. So, in the beginning of every podcast, we have always tried to go ahead and play our live disclosure.
Ying
We're
Yang
going
the
to try again
podcast
now.
does not own rights to any background music or noise you may hear. This podcast is completely opinion based and may include adult content, adult language, and verbiage not suitable for any underage viewers. Information found in this podcast may not contain exact accuracy as it is opinion based. Please listen at your own risk.
All right.
I played
So,
tonight.
I know. So for TikTok, just so that y'all know, our disclosure doesn't come across the TikTok for some reason. So more or less, our disclosure is just letting you know we are not scientists, we are not doctors. All of our information is opinion based. So listen at your own risk. But here we are tonight with Ying Yang the podcast, and we're talking about 2 week notices. So Sheena, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Oh, and I also want to put another disclosure out there. Um, if my boss is listening, um, these are my opinions. And I'm
Just
allowed to have
okay.
them. I am subject. Please listen accordingly. No, that's, I mean, she more than likely is listening. She's one of our biggest supporters. However, she knows, I think she knows for the most part how I feel about this. So, Sheena, have you ever walked out of a job without a 2 week notice?
Yes.
Was there no notice? Like, did you just like up and quit, or did you give them like a couple day notice?
I gave them like a week notice.
Okay. Okay. So you still gave some kind of notice.
hmm Yeah.
Okay.
I try to
And
be
was it a
kind of
job that
respectful.
okay, so I like the way that you worded that just now, because this is the controversy, and this is the whole reason we decided to kind of do this podcast is this is the controversy. We grew up, and for the record, I'm 38. Sheena is close to that age. So we grew up in an era where we were always taught that it's respectful and the correct thing to do to turn in a 2 week notice. So if you wanted to continue to work in that field or, within that company, or you wanted the opportunity to ever go back, you always made sure you gave a 2 week notice so that you were left in good standing.
Right.
Today's culture is being raised completely different. And I don't know if you knew that, Sheena.
Yeah. They don't. We're in an entitlement culture where everyone feels that they're entitled a little bit.
Listen, I kind of get it though. I'm not going to lie. At 38, I have probably put in I have 2 jobs that one of those jobs I only put in a 1 week notice, and the other job I did not put in notice. Um, However, and when we get further in the podcast, I'll explain why my reasoning for not putting that notice in was. But just as an individual, I've always put in 2 week notices because I do believe in giving that company the opportunity to try to
Adjust
fill my
themselves.
position. Right. Um, but even on top of that, it's kind of like I feel like I put those 2 week notices in vain. I can give you the perfect example. The last job that I left, and I won't say the name or anything like that, but the last job that I left, I put in my 2 week notice with the initial understanding that I would get paid out for vacation if I did that. And I did. And I worked out my full 2 weeks, and I even stayed late, and I busted my butt to make sure that I wrapped up every single thing on my plate. And then after I left, they decided not to pay me out for my vacation. And I didn't even receive word that that might happen until the day before my last day.
Really.
And I didn't receive word from the owner. I received word from gossip around the office. So it was one of those things where it was like, well, dang, man, like I only did this because of that when I could just go to the other job. The other job wanted me to start immediately. And so it made me feel like, dang, I just did these 2 weeks for no reason, you
Right.
know?
And
And
that's how
so
you're
if I
supposed to
was
do it. And that's
respectful enough
how
to give a 2 week notice, why weren't they respectful enough to keep their end of the bargain?
And that's why most people give their 2 week notice is so you can. I know that it's so you can get paid out for your PTO and get all your
Mhm.
vacation time that you're due, that you earned. Um, y- that's why people. That's why I don't really blame people who just take their vacation time and then quit without a notice because of things that happen like that. That you're gonna expect it to be on your
Exactly.
last check because you did the right thing. You took the right steps and the protocols, but then you get gypped in the end.
Well, and I don't know if anyone knows this. I think that our live on Facebook did not activate,
Uh oh.
so I'm gonna double check it. But anyways, one of the biggest things about that is your employer doesn't give you a 2-week notice.
That part, yeah. When they
When
want
they
to let you
fire
go
you,
or
they
lay
just
you off, like yeah, I actually had one job, and this was like a long time ago in my early 20s, um, before Adam. So I came into the job and they were like, "Oh, well, we lost the contract and we're gonna lay everybody off," and we were laid off that same day. So it's like, wow, you think you get up in the morning and you have a job you're going to, come to find out that next week you don't have a job to go to. So that's
see, and those
devastating.
those are kind of the problems with, and that's where this culture has come from with this newer generation where they're deciding not to put in the notice. And another thing to think about with 2-week notices, and I don't know if anybody's ever been through this. I have gone through this before, and this was actually a point that was brought up to me by one of our followers that it's asked to remain anonymous.
Hmm.
But she advised me that, like, with a smaller company, if you put in a 2-week notice, if you're, let's say you're the accountant for a small company and you put in a 2-week notice, they are more than likely going to just let you go.
Yeah.
Or, like, for me, I was an administrative assistant, so I had access to every password within that company, and I had access to lock everybody out of the systems. So when I put in my 2-week notice for the safety of their own company, they paid me out the vacation, not vacation, they paid me out the 2 weeks. They did pay me out my PTO at that company. Um, but they paid me out my 2 weeks and they just let me go. Um, and it wasn't like that day I put in my 2-week notice and then, like, 2 days later, that morning they came in and they were like, "We're just gonna go ahead and release you, for the safety of our company." And I completely understood, no love lost. I would still go back to that company. But they did it for the protection of their company because I was leaving and they didn't understand why. But it's not always up to the employer to understand why. You can always feel free to go back and tell them later. With my last company, I never disclosed why I left. If you ask them, it's going to be that I needed medical insurance. And if they truly want to believe that, then they can absolutely believe that. And I don't care. But I mean, they didn't pay me out my vacation anyway, so it kind of tells you the
Right.
kind of company I was working for, while I was working for them. So it's one of those things where we do what we can as people, but I don't feel like I should give 2-week notices. I do. Like the company I'm with now, I'm in property management. So I would give them a 2-week notice because I would never want my name to be blackballed in that industry,
Right.
because that industry is important to me. It's an industry I want to stay in. So I would
Right. And
always
that's
make
how
sure
I
I did
look
the
at
right
it
thing.
too. And when I'm thinking about 2 week notice, I'm thinking about your main job. Like all my main jobs in my industry, in my career fields, I had took the proper channels, gave a 2 week notice when I could. Like there was one job where they wanted me to start in the next training class and it was less than 2 weeks. I either had to take it or leave it type of thing. So I was like, listen, I'm sorry. I couldn't give you a 2 week notice. I have to start this job next week. So you only get a week notice, but I'll do what I can within this last week and so on. Now, on my little side jobs, my little part time extra income, I for this thing I need to do type of thing. When you doing those type of jobs, I mean, I had little side jobs. I meant little part time jobs with Domino's and cashiering and stuff like that, and driving, delivery driving and stuff like that. So those. I probably didn't do no 2 week notice when I finished or didn't need a second income no more or whatever. I probably like, hey, I'm done. Like I ain't coming back. But like main jobs in my main field, I always try to give a 2 week notice because I wanted to stay respected in that field.
Right.
And you never know when you're
Well,
gonna
and
need a
that's
reference.
right. And that's why I've always tried to do the right thing. But I will tell you, like, there are moments that are hard. Like, for instance, I can give you a perfect example. Like in property management, when you have a property that, like, let's say you're on a property and it's all conventional and it's moving over towards like a low income or a tax credit housing place. You let the residents finish out their leases. But when that property's bought, typically they may keep the property manager for a couple months to get all the info out of them. But those property managers don't typically keep their jobs. And they're not given a 2 week, hey, we appreciate all your help. You're not going to work here anymore. They randomly just walk in one day and there's a new manager sitting in their chair
Hmm.
and they're walked out of the front door. And those are hard things to come by, but it's also that much harder if you're like the person on a property that sells. Because if the new company doesn't want you and the old company doesn't retain you, and there's no 2 week notice either. It's not like they tell you, hey, your property's selling on October 5th. So be prepared to either be done or get an offer or whatever. You just kind of sit there dumbfounded until October 5th and hope that someone speaks to you. And then if nobody does on October 6th, you file for unemployment. So it's one of those things where like 2 week notices from our perspective, of course they're respectful. It's the polite and proper thing to do. However,
It's not a requirement.
at all. And that's the biggest thing I want people to remember. I have walked out of a job before and I didn't walk out. Like that's not how it worked. And I am not afraid to tell this story because I think it's the most screwed up thing that had ever happened to me as a person. Um when my father passed away, I was in an industry that was open through all of COVID. Um my father passed away January 2nd of 2021. So I was in an industry that was considered essential workers. And I came down when my dad passed, to be with my family, of course.
Hmm.
And then my direct supervisor told me I was required to come back to work by a certain day. Well, due to everything going on, my dad's funeral got pushed to that day. And so I called in and I said, hey, listen, I'm not going to be able to return that day. That's my dad's funeral. And they said, well, you know, we can't tell you that you have to come in that day, but we can tell you it'll be a write up if you don't show up. And I was like, really? Like, and this was a company that I had spent years building with. Um, I was in upper management. I I was heartbroken to say the least.
Yeah,
Um,
because
this was the same company that had me working 60 hours a week as I was also taking chemo meds. So that was kind of like my last straw. Like it was one thing to have me like going through chemo and working full time, not being able to see my family because I was at a new city. Um, During my whole chemo, it was a whole nother thing to tell me that I couldn't even mourn the loss of my dad. So I was like, listen, I'm not even gonna fight with y'all. Well, then that following Monday wrapped around and they called me and they were like, hey, you didn't come back to work. And I was like, I told you I needed additional time off. I have the PTO to cover it. I will not be returning this week. And they said, if you do not show up tomorrow, you are a no call, no show, and you will be terminated. And I didn't technically quit, I didn't show up. And so if you want to terminate me for that, when I had the available PTO, that's your choice as a company. And at those points, I feel like those are company losses, not personal losses. If you work for a
no.
company that can't understand that we're
Yeah,
all human and we go through stuff,
that's not a
leave.
company I want to work with
Right.
because you don't have
Uh,
no compassion for your workers, for your people, and if you don't have no compassion for that, the day to day is gonna be hell.
right.
It's stress. It's gonna be nothing but hell and stress. No, I don't want no parts of it.
See, and that's the biggest thing to remember. If a company doesn't, the same way that you want to give that 2 week notice out of respect, if the company doesn't respect you enough to give you the time off that you need, or, the different things you may need for health reasons, that's not a company you want to work for.
Mm-mm.
And in my opinion, that's not a company that deserves a 2 week notice. And should that ever come back to haunt me in life, I completely accept it because, from an HR standpoint, work life balance is not being afraid to talk to your employer.
Yeah, but you can explain that, and I think any other new company, if they ask you that question, they always ask you, why you left your last job, or have you ever been
Hmm.
terminated from a job? It's like you can explain that, and any kind of new company, if they don't feel compassion about why you left that job, then you don't need to probably go with the new job anyway.
Right. Right. I am. So, what do you think has created this culture in the newer generation? Because, the newer generation, they are very entitled. However,
People are getting sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of other people BS.
well, and it's so true. Like, and this new generation, this is what I like about them. They will not accept you underpaying them. They
Mm-mm,
will not do more than their 40 hours a week.
mm-mm.
And if you treat them poorly, they will walk out and blast you on social media. And I
That
know
part.
that we come from a a time in the world, an era where you don't do that to employers. But you know what? I'm glad that this new generation is speaking up because so many of us have had these secret thoughts or said these things after we leave a company or behind the company's back and never to their face because we didn't want to lose our jobs. But this new era of workers are like, man, screw that. They'll be on social media. You can Google
Yeah.
any company you work for on TikTok, and I promise you somebody's on there talking trash about it.
But we came up in a totally different era because our parents came up in a different era where you didn't
We're
you had
grateful to
you
have a job.
yeah, you showed a certain level of respect for your job because you
Hmm.
needed that job to survive. Like that that put food on your table. So whatever you had to do to keep the job, you just was expected to do it because you were expected to bring home a check. You were expected to bring home a food on the table. You didn't have time to say, "Oh, I'm not feeling how you're talking to me today," and had the ability to walk off a job because they had a family and they had big families back in the day. Like they have 6, 7 kids to feed. So whatever disrespect or things that they didn't agree with happened on a job, they just had to swallow it because they had to think about the 6 kids they had at home that needed food and a place to live. So they just dealt with it. But now you got so many different ways you can make money. You don't need a job. Like you just so many side hustles and different things you can do for yourself to make your own money for yourself and survive um accordingly that you people don't feel like they need to put up with employers BS because they be like they're smarter now and the use of technology is like I can go do this for myself and make more
Hmm.
money than working for you. So watch what you say to me. And that's how they are.
Well,
You
and
got
it's
the
it's like
people
a
who are
whole new kind of workforce, man. Like, and I respect it. And as somebody, I'm 38 years old, so I'm nowhere close to retiring.
no, me
But
neither.
because of how I was raised and because I've always had bills and I've been on my own for such a long time, and anyone that knows me knows that I have always kept a job. And 9 times out of 10, that job has been in some form of management. Um, It's just kind of who I am. And I know that that comes
Mhm.
with long hours. And the long hours don't even necessarily bother me. It's the expectation that I'll do the long hours. I have no problem working 60 hours a week and feeling absolutely fine. The problem comes in when I do it for a couple of weeks and then you expect me to do it for the third week when I might feel like I need a break. And if you take away that break from someone that needs it, they get burnt out. And that burnt out turns into like, resentment and anger and frustration with the company.
Mhm.
And there's nothing that you can do to change it or fix it, or you
Right,
feel
because
like
you
almost you
start,
get stuck.
yeah, you start feeling unappreciated, and once that sets in, you know, everything you're scrutinizing everything that they doing and saying because
Well,
you're
and a
not
lot of
feeling
people will be like,
appreciated.
"Oh, it's my boss, it's my boss, it's my boss." But I just want to point out that a lot of times it's not the boss. It's the boss's boss or the corporate, or because like
Mhm.
I personally feel like I have a phenomenal boss. But the workload on her plate is 10 times what my workload is. And I can barely keep up with my workload. So I know that she's drowning. And so when she reaches out and she's like, "Hey, this apparently needs to get done too," I might roll my eyes. I might be frustrated, but I'll stay the extra 30 minutes and get it done because I know that if I say no, then that's another thing that's going to fall back on her plate. And I know that's not necessarily my problem, but if you keep a good working relationship with your boss, when you do have a mess up or a screw up, they're right there to help you fix it versus saying, "Nah, this was your fault."
Yeah, and trying to throw you under
So,
the bus or be you be the blame person for the whole mess up.
but I will tell you, like, I am definitely at a point in my life where a 40-hour work week
It's
and
too
medical
much.
benefits. That's listen, I'm good with 40 hours now. Like and I only say that because like I can do a 40-hour work week with my eyes closed. I haven't done a 40-hour work week in a really long time. I could do that with my eyes closed and it would feel like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, because you're
But
working 40 hours plus. Anybody who's working
right.
40-hour plus, a 40-hour work week is be a breeze. My problem is
Exactly.
I want a 40-hour paycheck, but I only want to work 15 hours.
And that's why you start your own businesses. That's why you have your own business. You know what I mean? And once your business is running to the point where you don't have to work under anybody else, you're good. You know, which is part of the reason for the podcast, guys. So come on, share this with your friends, invite your family, tell everybody you know about it because we're the coolest people in the world. Amanda,
Yeah,
Sheena, we're the shit. And we're allowed to say shit because we put explicit content on our podcast.
right. And
So
anything is
we
liable
have
to
to
come out of
because
my
Sheena
mouth.
occasionally slips up and says some words that should not be on any podcast. So, we just have to do that
Listen,
because of
I have
Sheena.
to call out stupidity and stuff that don't make no sense. And sometimes there's not a polite way to call it out.
There's never a polite way to call out stupidity. Um,
Yeah, sometimes you
so
got to drop the F bomb to get your point across.
now, so all I just thought about as she said that, so that everyone knows why I was just randomly laughing so hard, is I was like, that's how you put in your 2 week notice. Like,
You know what? I had the same thought. Like, you pissed me
F
off. Let
it,
me
I'm
drop
out of
this F
here.
bomb, and that's going to be my 2 week notice.
I've never done it, but I really want to like put in my 2 week notice at a company using like a I'm sorry for your loss card. Like,
That
like
would be funny.
condolences.
That would be funny. I should just get a random job just so I can do that and see.
Listen, and then record it so we can put it on the podcast.
Right, just work there like 3 weeks and then be like, you know what? I ain't feeling this no more.
um, yeah, well, the only reason I want to do it is because I'm a very goofy person in general anyways. I'm a very happy person. It's the hippie in me. I can't help it. Um, but it's one of those things where I know what I bring to the table. I know I'm a hard worker and I know that I'm good at the things that I do. So I know what I bring to the table. So I'm always going to feel like I'm a loss to any company. And if you don't feel like you're a loss to a company when you leave, then you didn't do anything for that company. Just to put that out there. If
Right.
you don't feel like they're going to miss you when you're gone, what are you still doing there besides wasting time, space, and air?
You
You
know when
know,
you're available, when that company don't want you to leave because they'll try to do anything to keep you to stay.
they say that, but I'm gonna point something out. So I know a lot of people don't understand property management. Well, they understand it. Like it's your landlord. If you live in an apartment, it's your landlord. That's property management. But um, sorry, we just got a comment in our Facebook chat that said breakup should require 2-week notices also. And I personally completely agree. I think that
What? You
yeah,
need two
breakup should
weeks
yeah,
to know
because
that
then
I'm breaking up with you?
no, but listen to what you just said is that's when companies will be like, "Hey, what can I do to keep you?" So if you did that in relationships, like, "Hey, man, this is my 2-week notice that this isn't going to work." That'll give that person the opportunity to be like, "Hey, this is what I can change to make this relationship work."
No, because by the time I get to that point in the relationship, I'm already checked out. Listen.
But that's because females check out mentally long before they check out physically.
Listen, by the
Like we
time
will
I be
be
like,
done with relationships for 2 years in our head and still be with them. And then all of a sudden one day there's socks on the floor and we're like, that's it, I'm out.
ain't
Over a
nothing you can
sock?
say.
Yes, over a sock.
Listen, by the time I tell you I'm done, there is nothing you can say or do to get me to stay. Because you
Yep.
didn't already have first one, two, three. I don't know how many chances or second chances, or I done gave you a pass or opportunity to fix your shit and gave you an ultimatum and everything like that. So if I'm like, this your notice, I'm done, I'm out, don't call me no more, then I'm done. Like you better not call me no more.
You
You
know what?
can't because at that point you'll be blocked. Because I'm gonna tell
I
you don't
just
call me no
thought
more and
about
block you.
something. And some of my followers are going to think this is funny because they know the situation. But I think that my ex-husband gave me a 2-week notice because he he broke up with me and he said he was moving out and he left. And then he came back a week later and he said he wanted to fix things. And I said, "Okay." And then a week later he said he was done again. And at that point I kind of put my foot down and was like, "Okay, you're done, so we're done. We're done. This you're moving completely out."
You know what?
But
My
now that
ex
I
did
think
the
about it,
same thing.
I think he gave me a 2-week notice.
Because he was like, you want to get a divorce? Yeah, let's do that. And then a couple weeks later, he was like, you sure you want to do this? Dude, don't go reneging because I already, we doing this. Don't come back to the house.
Hey, what does that word mean exactly?
What?
RENIG?
Oh, read. When you see, you use this a lot in spades, but it's just when you say something and take it back, almost like an Indian giver.
Oh, an Indian giver with words?
Yes.
So I don't like that word. And I know that you know why I don't like that word.
Yes.
But I always wondered exactly what the definition was because I don't use that word. So I just chipped a nail, y'all. That's what I'm picking at. So I don't look like a crazy person on here. But
No, I typically only use it like in that context or when I'm playing spades or something.
so okay. Okay.
It's
So I'm
not
gonna
like
remember that.
a word that's like popular on the everyday
I'm gonna just call
conversation.
him a word Indian giver. I'm gonna just call him that. But you're not supposed to say Indian giver anymore.
Really?
Yeah, because it's
Oh.
not politically correct. It's like
So what is the
supposed
politically
to
correct
be
way to say you taking some shit back that you gave me?
you a giver backer or a taker backer. I guess I don't know. They never told us what, but that's why they changed like that team from the Redskins because it was no longer politically correct, and you're not supposed to say Indian giver anymore because it's no longer politically correct.
So they changed their whole name? They're not the Redskins no more? You see
No,
how
that
oh,
team has
see.
they've had a new name for years because like cancel culture took it away. I wish cancel culture would take away work. Like, how do y'all just cancel work?
Yeah,
Can we work
everybody
that out?
just give everybody a social security check and we could just sit at the house.
Listen, you don't even got to do that, man. I'll go out and make my own garden. If somebody else will raise a cow or two, we can like trade off. I'll give you vegetables, you give me meat, and we just live. And we can all steal electricity from solar panels.
Yeah, I really can't plant nothing, so I won't. I don't have a green thumb at all. Like I'll kill a
I don't
cactus.
either, but
So
my better half does. My better half is great with that stuff.
so I'll have to
I
barter
suck at it.
something else. So oh, if we had to live off the land, what would you barter? Like if we had to go back to like the 1815s and when we had to live off the land and
She
barter
said back to
everything,
1815. That's a very specific year. All right, so if we had to go back to 1815, y'all, what would we barter?
what would
But
you be
Sheena,
bartering?
if you could barter, you could make your own newspaper.
Oh,
That's what you could barter. You could trade your newspaper with everybody's news for your meat and your vegetables for the week to get through and your milk.
so you give me
And
meat and I give you a newspaper?
right.
That seems like an even trade.
I think it does. It takes a lot of work to make a newspaper.
Yes.
I'm not a very good gardener, so I don't think I could really garden with that, but I could like I don't know, I could trade like house cleaning services or cooking services or something like that in exchange for some kind of payment for well, listen, I don't really like to cook, so that's not gonna work either. But I'll clean, that's what
Right.
I'll do. You know what? No, I'll be the animal keeper, like the person that feeds all the animals on farms. That's what I'll do.
You
And they can
feed the
just pay me in
animals
meat.
and they
Yeah,
just give you
I
the
love the little
chickens.
animals. Yeah. Well, I don't but they can't give it to me alive because I wouldn't be able to kill the animal. So,
No, I want my chicken plucked and grilled.
girl, you better save them feathers. You gonna need some pillows. It's 1815. You can't buy them at Walmart.
Yo, what if we had to go back? We'll never have to go back and live off the land, not with our technology.
Listen, I don't know if this whole Texas and federal thing don't slow down. We might all get to a point where we don't got much choices anymore. I don't know if you know about all that. I know that you don't watch the news. I just found out about it today because I am so far behind the news and stuff like that because I don't watch anything political. If it's political, I change the channel as fast as I can.
Yeah, me
Um,
too. I don't even watch local shit, so you know I don't watch the political stuff.
Apparently, the federal government told Texas to stop putting barbed wire up around the border so that people that are seeking asylum from Mexico can get across. And Texas more or less said F you and put up this wire that people can't cross without killing themselves. And um, there's like multiple states like Arizona, Florida, all these different states are backing Texas. And Texas is more or less the federal government said they had until it was like either yesterday or Thursday to take the wire down. And Texas said F you. And they said, like the federal government said they were going to come in and cut the wire down, and Texas said, "Go ahead, we'll just keep replacing it."
Oh, so we about to have a civil war.
That's exactly what they were saying on the news is this is going to end up turning into a civil war. But listen, I don't know, like they better be careful with that because the Texas is part of the South, man, and the South. If anybody got the guns, man, it's the South.
Man, they ain't never watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Do y'all really want to fuck with Texas? I'm just saying. That was based on a
Listen,
true story.
what year would did that happen?
I don't even know. The 70s?
Because
The
my brain
60s?
wants to believe it was in 1815. Hey, wait. If we went back to 1815, you're saying go back to like 1815 times or go back to 1815? Because if we went
No,
back there, we wouldn't have any
1815
electricity.
times. Like the times.
And I can do a lot of things, but I can't live without electricity.
When did electricity start? You see, I don't remember history. So we could go back to whatever year electricity started, because I can't do without electricity neither. And water. I need some water in the
Well, I don't
house.
I don't know if you know that water's always been around.
No, I mean like indoor
Like
plumbing.
it's
Like you
oh.
know, like when the shit is in the
um
house. Like I don't want to have to go outside across the yard and shit.
okay, so Alexa, what year did indoor plumbing become invented? 1826. Alexa, stop.
Oh, almost.
So we're right there. Wait, hold on. Alexa, what year was electricity invented? No.
I think Alexa on something else.
Alexa giving me a whole lesson on electric currents and all kinds of stuff.
I heard
Alexa,
her say
stop.
something about Egyptian thing.
She said long before electricity was common, people were feeling electric currents back in something something BC. How do they know that? Who gave them that information?
The same people who gave them the information on the new dinosaurs they finding.
Alexa, when was indoor electricity invented? Alexa, stop. 1880. So we're going to go back to 1880. Alexa, stop. She thinks I'm still talking to her.
Let's just do 1901.
All right. So if we're going
We
back
need
to
to get out the
1901.
1880s.
All right. So we're going. Do you think that they gave 2 week notices on farms
Fuck
like
no.
back
Oh,
then?
sorry.
See? And that is why every single one of our podcasts have to have huh, every single one of our podcasts end up having to be under explicit content because of Sheena's mouth. So all right, 1901. We got electricity, we got indoor running water. You go to work all
No,
day at the
no,
farm.
no. They're going to jump on that horse and tell them where to shove it and go on somewhere. You see,
So
history repeats itself. That's where we are now. We got people, but they're not jumping on their horses. They jumping in their Hondas and their Lexus and their new Teslas. What's the other electric cars? They're jumping in electric cars now and telling you goodbye and riding off.
hold
Before
on,
that,
there's more electric cars than the Tesla.
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
So I don't know
The
anything about
Duracell.
cars. That's a car for real. Oh, listen, that was not fair because I was legit asking a question. Because I don't know anything about these electric cars, but now you're gonna make me look stupid when I go to a dealership and I'm like, yeah, nah, I wanted to come in to buy a door cell.
They're gonna be like, go to Walmart.
Oh, Duracell. I don't know what I thought you were saying. Um, okay, yeah. So yeah, I'm here to buy an energizer, please. Um, so they didn't give 2 week notices back then. So when do you think 2 week notices started?
That's a good question.
Because
Probably not
women weren't in the
into
workforce until like I don't even Alexa, when did women join the workforce? Stop. Alexa, stop.
Ask Alexa
So the
when was the first 2 week
1940s.
notice given.
Alexa, do you know when the first 2 week notice was ever given? It told me I don't have no notifications.
So who invented the 2 week notice?
Alexa, who invented the 2 week notice? It is not something that a single person invented. So what it is some company randomly at some point said, "Hey, the proper thing to do is give 2 week notices." I know
And
it's saying
everybody
the
just ran
40s.
it.
Oh, okay. So I think she was saying when we joined the workforce was the 40s. Um,
I think the 2 week notice probably came out around the 70s or something, because that's when people started getting responsible.
you think the 70s people were responsible? What do you know about the 70s that I don't know?
I don't know. I'm just guessing. They should have been responsible by the 70s. You think?
Well, and I only say that, but see, we grew up in different cultures because all I was thinking is like 70s was hippie central. Like that's when psychedelics were big. And
So you think? Yeah, they probably didn't give a damn about the two
I
week
know
notice
they
in the
probably didn't
70s.
even, they probably just didn't show up one day.
It probably might have been the late 80s. You know what? Scratch that. The 90s.
You know what though? And I don't want to say people in the 90s were really responsible, but You're probably right about the 80s though. Like honestly, because if you think about it, that's when you and I were young
Hmm.
and our parents were trying to make sure they could do whatever it took to put food on our tables.
I'm about to go
So that
ask
would
my
make
parents
sense.
like when did they start giving two-week notices.
That's so funny. Every bone in my body wants your parents to be like, we don't give 2-week notices. Um,
What's the 2-week notice?
right.
Somebody who's recently
Um,
retired, call us or send us, put us a message in the chat and tell me when did you first notice the 2-week notice.
Let me see if we got anybody chatting on anything. We don't got nothing over on TikTok right now. Let's see if we got something over on YouTube, Twitch. Come on, someone knows this answer, and I need to know who it is.
Right, because
Someone
I need
knows
to
where the two.
know who first
Hold
thought
on, let
of
me
the
ask Alexa one more thing. Alexa, why did people start giving 2-week notices? Never mind. She's giving me the definition of notices. Alexa ain't the brightest sometimes.
I don't think she heard the 2-week part. Let me
All
see. Let me
right.
ask
So
Google.
thank you,
Alexa,
Miss
okay.
Gonzalez. We got Miss Gonzalez on Facebook that is saying it's a norm that likely goes back to the 40s and 50s when a lot of big companies were formalizing their human resource practices. That would make sense. So it's probably something that was written into original human resource books to try to prepare a company when someone was going to leave.
Oh, well, Google says the 40s and 50s
Yeah, that's what
when a
she
lot
said
of the
too.
big companies were formalizing, like you said, the human
You
resource.
literally are repeating what I just
I know. I
said.
just realized that. That's why I stopped. I was like, damn, I'm repeating the same shit that you just said.
And that's probably what yeah, that's probably what Miss Gonzalez got it from. She probably Googled it and threw it in there for us. Um, but with that being said, we have come a long way since the 40s and 50s. Women are deep in the workforce. We're running multi-million dollar companies now. You know, we at what point do we reestablish if this is a good practice? And I get the companies are like, "Oh, well, we don't want it so that nobody comes in tomorrow." Yeah, but I don't want it so I can't pay my bills tomorrow, and you're not gonna give me a 2-week notice if you're gonna fire me.
No, they're definitely not. Because once they want you gone, you're gone. And I guess that's why unemployment was in the place. So in case you do get terminated, you can get some type of income. But that's only then they changed that to where you only get that benefit if you're laid off versus if you get fired. Because well, you still get it if you're fired. I think you're penalized. Um,
Right. Well, and then
so
on
you.
top of that, though, unemployment takes time.
Mhm.
And that's what I don't think they realize. Yeah, you can get unemployment if you're laid off, but you don't get it right away. And you have bills right away.
Right.
I don't know anybody whose bills say, "Oh, you lost your job. I'll pause for a couple months for you."
Well, that's
But
why
unemployment
they
will be
they
like, "Oh,
assume
no, da
they
da
assume
da."
they assume everybody has their rainy day or their savings account that they can live off of until things get better or you start having income again. But they don't realize that in today's culture or where we at now, the average person does not have a savings account or a rainy day. The average
Well,
person
that's
is still
because the
living check to
companies
check.
don't pay us enough to do that. Like
They don't.
I
That's
don't
why you
make
need
horrible
16
money.
jobs to make it.
Right.
I need
I don't
16
make horrible
jobs.
money by
Yeah.
far. But between bills and the inflation in groceries and the inflation in gas,
And the amount
I
of car
still live
insurance,
paycheck to paycheck.
right? Because you're requiring me to keep car insurance on the car, then you have to put gas in it. You got to pay the car payment if you don't own it, and then you got taxes and registration. So you got all of these
And on
bills.
top of that, you charge me a copay to go see my doctor, you charge me for my prescriptions, and you charge me monthly for insurance to do any of that stuff. And without the insurance, none of those people will see me.
You got to pay for anything. You don't. Only thing you don't pay for is air.
So, and girl, you paying for that sometimes. You can buy bottled air.
I'm about to say you probably got to pay for that because you pay to sit in your house to breathe air
I mean, you do.
comfortably.
So I don't know why, but this just reminded me. There's this video going around that's viral on TikTok about this girl that was like, "How do we breathe inside the car?"
What?
And I was like, "I don't understand what she's saying." And she goes, "How do we breathe when we're inside of a car?" She was like, "Unless you turn the vents on, you're not getting any air source. So when you're inside of a vehicle, how are you breathing if you're not getting any air? If your windows are up and you have no vents on, how are you getting air?" And I was like, "I don't think today's society understands how air works." But she has gone completely viral over this. So I just want to put out there, if she can go viral over that, then I mean, like, here, y'all send her my response, okay? Y'all record this and send this to her.
You know
Air
why? You know why
is
these
everywhere.
these new generation people don't understand certain things or don't get certain things. It's because they're cutting out a lot of stuff out the history books. And they're not teaching a lot of stuff. And they're changing the way they're teaching things. So the things that we learn and that's common sense to us, these new kids and stuff are coming to us and be asking questions and we're looking at them like should be common sense. But they're actually not teaching it in anymore.
See, I don't have children to have that kind of like information. I do know only because I'm an avid book reader and I'm really big on like what's going on with books, like canceled books. And, it's like really important to me that I own all the books that have been canceled and stuff like that. So I do know that they have removed a lot of parts of history from the books. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, the Civil War in the books in South Carolina. Now, the Civil War and slavery is only covered in one paragraph, one page.
Mm.
That's
You
it.
ever heard of the New World Order?
So I just started hearing a little bit more about that. So yeah, a little bit. But that's what they're saying is going on with this whole Texas thing too.
Yeah, it's a the New World Order is a new I hate to say revelation, but it's not a revelation. It's just like a new change that they want to blanket out to change, basically change society from
If
what it
you
used to be.
remove if you remove the learning and the education from things that happened in the past, then the past will repeat itself. The
But they kind
Holocaust is
of
a
wipe it
perfect
out
example
because,
of
like,
that.
after all of those people, they're wiping out everything and changing now, starting to change the history now and teaching things differently, brainwashing everybody to forget the history because once the people that generation die off, it won't be nothing but what is told. So if it's not in the
Right.
history books and nobody's here that lived through it and everybody who lived through it died off, how what the new people or the new generations is only going to believe what they're told.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. But that's with that being said, then, if we can tell people to do stuff, I want to tell the up and coming generation the cancel culture. I don't know who I call. Is it like 1-800 cancel or like 1-800 cancel you? Or y'all just, I need the phone number to the cancel culture society because I would like to put 2-week notices on the cancel thing. I know that your generation is already doing it, but I think we need to cancel it as an entire race. The human race needs to eliminate 2-week notices because employers don't give them to us.
Right.
Um,
You got people now that just don't get do it at all. Like people have stopped doing it, and I don't think there's a requirement in any state. I know
no,
South
no,
Carolina is
and
not.
they can't
It's not.
require you to legally. They can't require you to do that because you could have anything come up. Where you just
Right.
need to walk away from that. So they legally cannot require that of you.
So it's only the discretion of the company. Like, and then it's always been like with me, if you have to quit and leave my company or whatnot, and if it's for a good reason, it's a health reason or something, and you want to come back later on down the line, you didn't give a 2 week notice. Depends on how good or valuable of a employee you was. If you did your job,
Right.
then I would base that you returning to me on that versus whether or not you gave me a 2 week notice. I know money companies now. If you don't give a 2 week notice, you're not even eligible to come back to them.
Correct. correct. And it's not just a 2-week notice either. So they
So
can
I
make
just
you unrehirable for a multitude of reasons. I can tell you that I worked for a company that listed me, and they won't tell me this to my face, but I was told by my direct supervisor that I was listed as non-rehirable because my husband at the time was a felon.
wow.
And I didn't even think they could do stuff like that, but they don't have to give a reason if they list you as unrehirable.
Yeah, they don't, especially if there's an at will state, so they don't have to do anything. But like I said, it's not a requirement. People just not doing it. I just say if you don't want to do it, don't do it. You don't have to do it. But just know if you don't do it, just be okay with your not going back. Every action has a consequence. So if you're going to deal with the consequences of never returning to that company, then don't do it. So the company that I didn't give a 2 week notice to, I wasn't planning on never ever going back to her. So it really didn't matter. So all the times that I did it, I I never planned on ever returning to the company, so it really didn't matter. But if I want to return to a company, maybe potentially, then I always make sure I do it and get a proper, protocol so I can be eligible to return. But that's the only thing. If you don't care about returning to the company, it don't matter one way or another.
I was trying to look up like the most hilarious 2-week notice that you can find.
That would be. You really don't have to give a reason,
Funniest
but
2-week
something.
notice. Well, see, and that's another thing. Like people think that, and I had to learn this from my mom and given my last 2-week notice. Like I gave way too much information in my notice. She was like, Amanda, take all that out.
Yeah,
She was
people
like,
get
make
way
it
too much
vague.
information.
If they really want to know why you're leaving, they're gonna come to you and talk to you. And if they're not willing to, then they're not willing to. You know, I would like to believe that my former employer knows why I left, even if they didn't acknowledge it. Because I said multiple times the reason I was thinking about leaving. Um,
Listen, okay, I found one. This I'm sorry for your loss card as a 2 week notice is a thing you can buy it on Amazon. But this one, I googled the funniest 2 week notice, and I'm looking at the images. So I think this
uh-huh.
is hilarious because this person drew a mic drop, the microphone, and
Yeah,
he said, "Thank you for thank you for the wonderful time I had here. This is my drawing of a mic drop. It is also my 2 week notice."
that's pretty cool. I'm actually looking at the same thing you are.
That's pretty
So if
cool.
y'all just type in funniest 2-week notices and then click images, you'll be able to see exactly what we're looking at right now. Um,
Somebody draw a picture of a cat. Talking about this is a picture of a cat. It's also my 2 week notice.
so I am looking at this one. So the one that I'm looking at, y'all, is written on a piece of toilet tissue. And it says, I have chosen this type of paper for my 2-week resignation as a symbol of how I feel this company has treated me. And ironically, how it is disposed of is where I feel this company is going.
Flush
What?
it down the toilet. We should have Googled the most creative way to do a 2 week notice.
Listen, this right here, let me see if I can show y'all. Okay, so I got TikTok to see that one. Now let me see if I can get the light. Hold on. Let me adjust this light and see if
Some of
y'all
the
can
toilet
see
paper
this.
one.
No, my light won't let y'all see my phone correctly. It's a picture of a bunch of birds flying in the sky.
I think I seen
And
that one.
all it says under it is this bird has flown and their signature.
Yeah, I think I seen that one.
So let's see.
This is hilarious. Well, the more of the podcast, we're gonna
This
just be
person,
like,
sorry, this person said that They went into work that day playing the NSYNC "Bye Bye Bye" song over and over and over until someone asked them, "Why do you keep playing that?" And they walked out.
Really? I'm looking at a candle that says this smells like my 2 week notice. Oh my god, I just can't. I wonder what kind of candle. You know what? What kind of smell would you put in a candle for your 2 week notice?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Like, they say that the smell that covers up anything is, like, apples or cinnamon, but they say that the most frequently bought smell is vanilla.
Hmm. But I wonder if
But
they
if
would like do
but if
something
I was gonna
really
do that, I would
crazy.
make the candle smell like poop.
I just want to, you know what? It's on Etsy. I want to just order it just so I can see what it smells like.
Listen, you gotta be careful messing with Etsy, though, because Etsy is where I found that you could mail your enemies glitter. You know what? That's how I
Really?
would do it. That's how I would do it, man. I just figured it out. If I'm ever going to turn another 2 week notice, I am going to mail my corporate office a glitter bomb. And what a glitter bomb is, it's called mailyourenemiesglitter.com. And when they open the envelope, it flings the glitter all over. And you're allowed to put a little message in it. A lot of people send it to their exes. But I'm good. That's how I'm going to quit if I ever have to quit.
You know
I'm going
what? I'm
to.
about to go on Etsy just to Google that.
Yeah, well, you can just type in mailyourenemiesglitter.com and it'll come up. There's all kind of different glitter bombs and glitter envelopes, and you can even
Oh
do
my
like it'll
god.
have like mini penises that pop out and fly everywhere if you
I
want to
didn't know
send it to
that
your
was a
ex-boyfriend.
thing.
Yeah, I love it.
I should create me another company to uh it's called 2 week notices for your employer or your boyfriend or your significant other, whoever you need to give a notice to. And I'm gonna put it in a glitter bomb. It's gonna blow up. It's gonna say, "This is my notice to fuck off."
So, listen, Sheena, while we're here live on the podcast, this is an intervention because you create too many businesses.
Right.
Um,
I have so many
and
ideas.
so this is your current intervention live with all of our followers across the world. Um, and with that being said, guys, I just want to point out that today, as of right now at 8:57 p.m., Ying Yang the podcast has finally reached 1.3 thousand followers.
Yay!
So we have finally reached our goal of 1,000 followers. We are doing great in that note. So thank you to the people that I reached out to today that shared that with your followers to bring some people over, so that we can start getting a little more out there and getting our lives watched a little bit more. I truly, truly, truly appreciate your help with that. But we are officially at 1,000 followers on Facebook, which means that our lives can be as interactive as we want them to be and as long as we want them to be. They're still going to just be the same that they've always been because me and Sheena are people that live off of our calendars. We don't have much time besides that. We get like 6 minutes in between this and that. So, but y'all, I guess the wrap up for tonight would be, if you are leaving your job for a good reason, if you're leaving your job for better money or better benefits or a better work culture, then put in your 2 week notice and tell them that. Like,
Right.
hey, this work culture is killing me. Y'all expect way too much out of your, and that way maybe they know so they can change. But put into your 2 week notice just in case that company does start to change and do better, that you have the option to go back.
Or if you don't want to
But
put it all in a notice, a lot of companies do the exits, give you an opportunity to do an exit interview. Do the
yeah,
exit
don't put it in your
interview.
actual 2 week notice. Yeah, no, do the
Do the
exit
exit
interview.
interview and then explain to them this is why. Give them your feedback so they are, can reduce their turnover rate because that's how they can reduce it. That's how they can get better by your feedback. If they don't get your feedback, they think they're doing it right.
Well, and that's the biggest thing. You create the job that you want. Like with me, all the extra work and stuff I'm doing right now, I know that I brought that on myself by agreeing because I could have said no and I didn't. and it comes a point where you got to put your foot down and you got to do what's best for you. And I know that. So if you create that environment, but for people like me, it's really hard for me to stay in one job role forever
Oh yeah, I
because
get
I
too
get
bored for
bored.
that.
See, I need more tasks. I need more challenges. I need to do more.
Girl, that's
Um,
why I got like 700 businesses because I get
I
bored.
know. And now we got to make a whole nother one with some glitter. Listen, we're doing the glitter at your house, man. Don't
No,
bring all that glitter over
no,
here.
don't bring that glitter over here. We need a
All right,
manufacturer.
so right, we gonna have to outsource
No,
our
you know
glitter
what? I'm
apparently.
not just gonna I don't know. We have to manufacture the glitter somewhere else. Now I can do drawings, do a handmade drawing, a handmade letter of a 2 week notice that's really like out there, and I can send it for you. If you want to break up with your significant other by a 2 week notice, come holler at me, cause I got some ideas.
Y'all don't let her be out here selling y'all random letters with and listen, don't be letting her hand draw either. She ain't gonna tell you this, but she not the best hand drawer. So
And I got two
look at her.
dogs, so I got 2 dogs, so we can like hear me out. We can take this the notebook paper, get some cardstock, and run that through some dog poop, and put "You broke my heart, so smell this crap." Oh, well, I can write some poetry, and we can send those letters out to break
Listen,
up with your significant other. It's gonna
you
be
just go
better than
back
the
to the old school
glitter.
ones, like you broke my heart. I'm gonna break your face. This is your 2 week notice to move out of this place.
Yeah, that's
Boom.
dope. Man, you get in so much trouble now by slicing people tires. Don't get no record. Don't get no criminal record.
Sheena,
Send them a poop letter.
Sheena, that was really strange advertising.
Really? Yeah, it was
You
strange.
shouldn't bring up the whole slicing tires thing because it sounds like you're speaking from experience.
Oh no, I never did that. I never did that.
For real, you never did?
No,
Would
for
you
real.
tell me on this?
Scott's honor. Yeah, we're live. Like Scott's honor.
Listen, it's
I never.
scouts.
There's a whole scout. I don't know what it is. I'm hand
Scott,
on
who is Scott?
Scott.
Scott's honor.
Scott. I'm putting my hand on Scott. Where's Scott at? So I can put my hand on him.
Listen, y'all, I've done it. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I don't care.
I haven't been that.
But
I
I
was.
only did 3 because I know the drill. If you do all
This.
4, insurance pays for it.
I haven't done it. I haven't done that.
Mm.
I haven't done anything
But
that
I can't be
crazy.
arrested because technically the vehicle wasn't my name, so it was my own vehicle.
We need to do a podcast. No, we can't do talk about topics. But you know what? That would be a good podcast topic. We should be another podcast on stuff you would do when you break up.
Listen, I had an ex that
So we
that
should
took
say
my
stuff
TV
not to
cord.
do. Stuff not to do when you break up. It's
I had
slicing
a
the
petty
tires.
ex take
That's
my
petty.
TV cord and I didn't even know for like 2 weeks because I don't watch TV like that. And so like 2 weeks after he moved out and took all his stuff, I went to go turn on my TV. First off, he hid the dang remote. It took me like 2 hours to find the remotes. But I found them and they were like all stuffed in the bottom of the drawer back behind the pot holders in the kitchen. So I found the remotes and then I tried to turn on the TV and I was like, oh dang, the remote must not go to batteries. I opened it, it had batteries. And I was like, what's going on? So I went to turn it on a TV on the TV and I'm like, power, 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 not doing nothing. I looked behind, the whole cord was gone. He took all my power cords to all my TVs in the house.
See, he definitely need a poop letter, but y'all already broke up, so it won't be a 2 week notice.
Yeah,
That
it'd
would
be
be a
kind of awkward to
special.
send it now,
No,
right?
I will have a special letter for
15
him.
years ago, you took all my power cords. Here's my revenge.
That's crazy. Oh my god. Now that's the most pettiest. No, I guess I don't know. I guess that takes the cake. The most pettiest
I
thing
don't
I
know.
ever
If I
had.
ever got to leave somebody again, I'm taking all the spoons. I don't care. Nobody says it's one of the hardest things to live without if you ain't got none.
Yeah. Well, spoons.
how you gonna eat your soup?
Or your ice cream, cause listen, that chocolate ice cream soft serve is life.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
trying to
that's I
think
already
in
told you that your brother got me hooked on that too.
yes, I'm trying to think what I would take. Okay, so you would take spoons if you break up. If I break up, I'm taking
And I would take the batteries out of the smoke alarm.
that so they can hear that chirp chirp.
Yes.
That's a good
All
one.
day. You will remember me.
I would take the toilet paper.
But it's easy to buy toilet paper.
Not when you don't know it's missing.
I mean, that's true. You should take like what's the little thing, the little piece that holds the toilet paper on the toilet paper thing? You should take that.
I would leave the toilet paper on there that only had like two squares on it, and then take all the other toilet paper out the house.
I helped a friend leave a guy. This was years ago. We were like in our early 20s and he was like a really crappy person. But she had me go around and cut all the chains to his fans and we took them all because she said that every time he came in the house he would flip out if the fans weren't on, saying that he couldn't breathe right because there was enough airflow. And so she had me cut the little cords to all the fans so he had no way to turn the fans on when she left.
Girl, I'm about to make me a list of all the pettiest things you can do when you break up. Who want the list? Email me. Let me know you want the list, cause that's
I
real
want the
petty.
list.
You want the list? I'm
No,
gonna give
we
you a list.
listen. We no, we're gonna revisit this topic in the future, y'all, because there's honestly some very serious petty stuff. Let me see if anybody jumped in the comments real quick and said
That would be
anything.
like a really good like book to write. How many people would buy a book full of petty shit you can do?
I think I'd
If
buy that
not,
book.
if not, I would buy it just because it'd be hilarious to read.
Like remember those books? They were called like Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Oh yeah, your
You
old
we
grandma
we could
stuff.
make a chicken soup for the petty soul.
Yeah, we should come up with that. That would be a bestseller. Cause
See,
I would just buy it. I wouldn't do none of the stuff because I
so
would
what's the
probably wouldn't
pettiest
do
thing you
nothing
ever
of the
did?
stuff. But
Cause
I
Sheena,
would
I know you
be.
got no, you trying to hide it. I know there's some pettiness in there in you. Cause
I
ain't
mean,
no way
I'm
you got a
petty.
mouth like that and no petty.
I can be
So
kind of. I have come up with some real. That's why I said I think this would be a good idea because
what's the
I had
pettiest thing
come
you
up
ever did in a breakup?
a pettiest thing I ever did in a breakup.
Uh-huh.
Pettiest.
Cause I know I can tell y'all something my ex did that was petty. He
Go
added
ahead while
my
I'm
dang
thinking.
phone number to one of those I'm looking for car insurance websites. And then people was calling me for weeks trying to get me to, and I was like, this is so weird. And then finally somebody said, well, there's two numbers listed, and they gave me the other number, and it was his.
Wow.
And I was
I don't
like,
know. I haven't.
he's slick.
I haven't did anything. I think it's hilarious. But I haven't really done anything that petty. Cause once I'm done with my breakups, I've been like, as I'm over it. Ain't no matter pettiness I can do. Cause I'm tired of you at that point. But there was this one person I talked to, and I was like, I just I ghost like my own pettiness would be like ghosting, really. But like, oh, I'm gonna call you back, and then I'll never call you back. But when you try to call me back, I already blocked you. Or I'll let you come through, and then I'll just sit there and look at your texts. Or I'll text you back like you got the wrong number. Like, who is this? You
So
got the
I
wrong number.
have I have responded to somebody and said this phone number is disconnected, service provider da 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 da. But where I messed up is I had an automatic signature on my text. And so they responded and said your signature wouldn't be on that if your phone was disconnected.
Good idea, but they didn't think it through. Didn't think it all the way through. All right. Yes, that's my length of my pettiness that I already did. Like, I'll ghost you in a minute, but
So
I
that
just
makes
don't
me
know.
feel like you would never turn in a "I'm sorry for your loss" card as your 2-week notice, but I would absolutely do that, y'all. I love petty, and that's not that I like petty stuff, I like funny stuff, and
Yeah.
sometimes petty is funny. I don't like petty if you're being mean.
No.
I would never make fun of somebody, I would never hurt somebody's feelings purposely, I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah, I won't do anything petty to where it can hurt people or people get like physically hurt. No, then that's not funny. I like petty
Right,
when
but if
it's
I'm gonna
funny.
do something that's gonna make you go, "Ha, ha, ha, that
Yes.
be," then yeah, no, that's 100% me, and I don't know if it comes from if you ask my mom, she's gonna tell you it comes from my dad's side of the family, but I'm pretty sure a lot of it comes from my mother. She just won't ever take responsibility for the fact that my pettiness comes from her, but she was a "to whom it may concern" mom, with the little letters through high school, so
Right.
I know that some of my pettiness comes from her. Um, but she'll tell you it comes from my dad's crazy Irish family, so but, anyways, y'all, we went a little over tonight. We appreciate y'all coming in. We appreciate all the support we've been getting here in the last few days. It has been phenomenal to see it kind of grow. If anybody wants to reach out to us or has any questions, we will be here and we will see y'all next Saturday morning at Coffee with the Maries at 7 a.m. for our current events update.
Yes.
Two people,
Two opinions. Real
real
talk.
talk.
Bye.
Bye.